Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of What's on Your Mind. It has been a minute. We took a little bit of a winter break. We had to end the year, get some rest, and now we are revved up for a whole nother year with lots of interesting guests. I'm so happy to be back. If it's your first time joining us or if it's been a while, my name is Nimade Bewu. I am the host of What's on Your Mind. We get together every Sunday at 7:30 to talk about mental health and things going on in the world and how it impacts our mental health. I'm so excited to kick off this year and with our first conversation with Rayanna Lynn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is a serial entrepreneur. She's had many businesses. She currently has her business, Restoring Natural Beauty. And I can't even describe her story, right? It is, people go through a lot, and people, if there was a picture for someone who doesn't look like what they've been through, you are looking at it right there, right?
Wow.
There's a picture of someone who does not look like what she's been through. So first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to have this time to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to, be on your platform. Actually, me meeting you for the first time and doing my research about you, I see that you're not a force to be reckoned with yourself because you make sure that everybody's truth is heard. And I feel like the very valuable thing is knowing that the victory is in our voice. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share my story and just to be on this platform to know what's on my mind. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so let's just dive right in. I told
Okay.
everybody a little bit about where you are now, but where you are now, as great as it is, it's even more impressive when we talk about where you got started, like what you
Ooh.
had to go through to get to where you are. So let's go back. Something I don't even know the words to describe what happened in your childhood. So I'll let you
Okay.
use the words to describe it and just tell us a little bit about it.
Thank y'all so much. So, just for the people that are currently listening to this, I want you to know that this is a sensitive story, and it's a sensitive story for viewers that never been through something as such, or people that been through quite quite things that they
Oh,
can
and
relate.
yes, actually,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt. I should trigger warning. It's going to be a tough
yes.
topic about mental health, abuse, uh, yeah, mental health, abuse, and kidnapping, things like that. It's a very sensitive. So all of the trigger warnings, just to be warned for those
Thank you,
who are.
thank you. I couldn't get that word out, but that's the word right there. Very much trigger warnings, and just know that the love that come behind this, I do appreciate it because it's one type of thing. Is I have 13 siblings, so everybody have a story. So with that being said, everybody see the glory, but people don't know the story. Like you said, it's a beautiful face right here that's painted. But like I tell people, we're born in this world looking like our parents, but we die looking like our choices. So I want to make sure that my choices that I'm making this lifetime, they're firm, they're solid, and it comes with substance, morals, and values. It's hard to really get to this place if you don't understand who you are and how life made you. As y'all know, at the age of 7, and if you don't know, your programming system is based upon who you grew up with in your childhood. So I do want to let you know that what I'm about to tell you is real, and it's as real as it's about to get. So I can say I'm a product of reproductive abuse, infidelity, and illegitimacy. If you don't know what that term is, please do your research. It's something that happened back when welfare was enacted, in the 60s. So legitimacy is like a provocative term, bastard kids, where you don't get no family inheritance, nobody knows you. You're just out here in this world existing. You're not out here in this world actually doing what God called you to do. So with that being said, my parents, I'm the last of my parents set. My mother and father, they were married. They had two other children before me. I'm the youngest of the three set. My dad, had stepped out on the marriage and got pregnant with a lady across, the world. And it was one of the type of things, him stepping out in marriage caused so much harm in my childhood, meaning like trauma that I never can foresee a child even going through. With that being said, getting straight to it, as soon as my father left the household, I stopped talking for a whole year of no talking, a silent child. So let's put emphasis on that. In order to get me back talking, my biological mother, she ended up taking me to therapy. The therapist said, get her girl a dog. But my mom said, but she got asthma. So they got me a non-allergenic dog, which was a poodle. I named him Onyx. He was black. I wanted to name him Blackie, but my mom said, no, Rihanna, you need to name him something that's going to be like nice. When people hear the name, people know exactly what you mean. So Onyx was the name that my mom helped curate. Just it's like a comforting animal. We always need a comfort. That was a very big comfort source for me, as far as getting me to talk again. As soon as that dog came into my life, it was happy Rayanna again. It was child Rayanna. 5 turning 6 years old, my dad came back into my life. He said to my mom, "Hey, I want to get the kids for the summer." A summer turned into 10 years. Do y'all hear me, ladies and gentlemen? 10 years of
And you
me.
know,
eh,
no, and I was gonna say, like, when you told me that, like, I felt a kick in my heart because my parents got a divorce when I was younger, my mom and my stepdad, and I grew up, I'm Liberian, so there's
Yes.
always the I can have the kids, like you can't have the kids. And once they got a divorce, and my brother and sister would go to my dad for the summer, I was terrified every summer that exactly what like you are
Wow.
like speaking my worst fears that I had as a child. Like part of why I have so much anxiety today is those summers of just pure anxiety that I like he would take them, run to Africa, run away,
Wow.
and I'd never see them again. So it's so scary to realize that there were people actually living that my
That
fear,
fear.
living it. Yeah.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. My heart's pounding like when you just said that, like on another level, like to let that be somebody fearing that actually somebody to live that. I'm
Yeah.
living her fear, y'all. Do y'all hear that? So making emphasis on children being kidnapped for 10 years, meaning when I say kidnapped, that's a real word, meaning my family that I grew up around, they no longer knew where I was at, let alone the biological mother, the mother that birthed us into this world. She had no idea where her children were at, not to care for us, not to check up on us. It was like high and dry. My dad was like had us in homeschool. We wasn't even going to dentists or doctors. Like we were just off the grid. And we were in Wichita, Kansas. So it was one of the type of things where as soon as we came into the household, it was like we were bombarded with 7 other children in the house. We thought it was just gonna be us and the sibling that my dad came with. No, it was 7 other children in the household. They didn't even give us a heads up. Within the same year of me being there, y'all, I was 5 turning 6 years old. I was molested. And it was a molestation that didn't just happen one time. It was something that was a reoccurring. And I just want to introduce something to y'all really quick. My parents were pastors. So it's a real thing where I grew up in the word. I know who God is as far as how people introduce me to him. But that's what grew my hate towards God. Like you let these people do this to me. You let these people put me in a position where I don't feel the love. I just feel division. I feel hate. I feel anger. I feel rage being in this environment. With that being said, I'm the youngest, mind you, 5 turning 6. I told my parents something happened to me when I was sleeping. It was one type of things they brushed it off because they had a social stature to maintain, and most importantly, my dad made emphasis a child's supposed to be seen and not heard. So with those two words being put out there like that, it did something to my mind to be quiet and just to act out. So I became a real rebel child, like real rebel, lying, stealing, deceitful at the age of 7, 8. Who is doing all this lying and stealing at that little age? That's
Me
somebody that's
too.
being brought up in the world of corrupt. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
No, I was gonna say, do you mind me asking? Well, before I ask my question, I was gonna say it's something you said, which is very poignant, which is that your character changed. And if you've been watching this for a while, I've seen previous episodes. We had a sex therapist come on, and we talked about in cases of child abuse, one of the key signs is a drastic change in the temperament of the child. If your child goes from being sweet and whatever to acting out, wilding out, it's not just always kids acting out. It's usually a sign that they are going through something mentally. And the only way that they know to express themselves is exactly what she said, acting out, doing all these things. And oftentimes it gets brushed off as they're just a bad kid. But if they haven't been that bad kid all those years, maybe get to the reason of what's causing that. And what I wanted to ask you, and you don't have to give like a direct answer, but oftentimes when people think of abuse, they think of a stranger, right? The bad guy, the man in the
Mm.
van on the corner, the stranger in the street. But truthfully, it's usually a family or a friend member. And you don't have to say exactly who it is, but was it somebody that you knew?
Yes, it was somebody that I knew, and it's so sad to say that your biggest demise be your family. And I tell people like in this lifetime, it's like you only got one life to live, and you don't understand that like sometimes all people want is family, but that's the same people that's hurting you, causing you pain, making you live in fear, make you like not develop to become the best version of yourself. So I was actually my growth was being stunted on another level, and not to mention I was also a child that was dyslexic, and my father never even nurtured that part of me to the point where when I went to school and I was in class with normal students that wasn't dyslexic, that wasn't seeing things backwards or writing backwards, it was one type of things where I shut down. And now I'm a class clown because nobody else is learning because I'm not learning. So I had trouble like just processing things like easy things, how to spell taco. Like it was like kept saying it backwards, kept reading it backwards, and I still didn't get the help I need. But just to fast forward time, y'all, it was one type of things where this abuse kept happening, and we grew up with schizophrenic Christians, people that was doing ministry with Juanita Byams, T.D. Jakes, Vicky Yohe. They're out in the congregation preaching to the nations of people, but coming behind closed doors, it's a lot of deceitfulness going on. And like I said, it's the fact that it's different sets of children in the household, and nothing is being taught but hate. So now that we're older, we don't even talk as 13 siblings. I don't even get calls on my birthday from no sibling other than my youngest sibling and my two sisters that stay here in Delaware with me to wish me happy birthday. So it's one type of things that hate is not just a childhood hate. This is something that people grow with and they die with. And it's so sad because it takes 5 to 7 pallbearers to put us in the ground. But we can't even get 5 to 7 people to uplift us while we alive. This why this is like a call of emergency to me. I about died December 28th, and it was like a flash of my life going in the grave with me. Like nobody never was gonna know who this extraordinary person was. I'm an extraordinary person because I take the time out to do some groundwork, shadow work on who I am, what is something as far as like boundaries, trying to just build my character or financial literacy. It's so many things that you gotta teach yourself as an adult if you didn't learn that as a child. And it's hard. But like I said, it's being hard. It's gonna be hard being rich and it's gonna be hard being poor. You just gotta choose your direction of hard that you want to take. And most importantly, circle of influence. So I'm going through this life of turmoil. I had 4 abortions in my lifetime. I only dated 3 guys, and outside of these 3 guys, I only dealt with one other partner. But these 3 guys, I end up having. The first guy was my high school sweetheart, 1 abortion. The second guy was 2 abortions. The last guy was abortion. But it's the fact that I didn't even know how to love myself enough to bring kids out here on this earth to actually give kids a good life. And I was also scared that the same thing that happened to me as a child was going to happen to my children. So that was a fear. I had to make a small micro choice right then and there if I was going to keep my child or get rid of them off the strength of my readiness for this lifetime. But I thank God because God worked in mysterious ways. And he works so powerfully to just remind you that you're a key component to his kingdom and you have not been forgotten about. Just because you're a forsaken child don't mean that I won't be there to lift you up and bring you up. So it's about, finding out who you are, finding out what makes you happy, find out what makes you sad. Most importantly, developing routines, making up your bed every day, brushing your teeth every day, things that you didn't learn fundamentally as a child. It's the fact that you have to literally unlearn bad habits to relearn new habits. So just with me going through life, y'all, trying to deal and balance things out, trying to even find out like if I want to continue to even look at myself in the mirror. Like I'm a beautiful girl and I'm running away from the mirror because nobody never told me as far as like my dad, my mother, like as a child, like Rayanna, you're beautiful. You've grown up to be a beautiful girl. They were just spanking me. They were just correcting me. They were just telling me what I wasn't doing right. And it's just like, come on, I'm a child. This is my first time being on this earth. I didn't ask to be here. But it's the fact that when parents don't plan to have you, and when they actually have you, now you're the problem of all their problems.
Yeah.
The light bill was a problem. I remember one time the light bill was so high we ended up getting evicted, and it was like the kids got blamed for it. But you never even taught us the importance of a light bill. When you have to break down things fundamentally to a child, so a child can be able to process in their brain the importance and the reason why. Because if you don't know that reason why, it's the fact that I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
So
No, and you said something
yes,
really great, which is that it was your first time going through life. And I say that all the time about kids. I don't have kids because I don't want kids, but I love kids, right? Like I love them and also know how much work they are, which is why I don't want to have them. But it's like people have such little patience with them sometimes. It's like this is their first time on earth. Like they are literally experiencing everything for the first time and you're talking to them or treating them like they should know all of these things. They don't. Like it is your job to guide them. Don't be a parent if you're not ready to accept the responsibility and the patience
patience.
required in help in guiding them through this. Like so many times people will be like, oh, I would whoop their butt, I would spank them. It's like for being a child. The things you want to spank them
Yeah,
for are literally for being children because you're stressed out. Like that's not discipline.
and it's not fair. And I was wondering, like, at what point are we going to understand that just because your parents did that to you, you don't got to do that to your child? It's a real thing called unlearning bad habits to relearn new habits, out with the old, in with the new. And it's nothing new under the sun. So it's one of the type of things where I feel like people have not sat down with themselves long enough to realize what makes them happy, what makes them sad, who they like, who they don't like, what's their favorite foods. It's very fundamental things that we have to really crack into when it comes to our mental health and just putting things in compartments in our mind. Because I feel like our mind is like polarity. A lot of people are walking around here like sleeping, even though they're woke.
Yep.
It's polarity. You got to turn your brain on, turn your switch on. Realize that, you know, a dog can't be nothing but a dog, and a tree can't be nothing but a tree. But a human being, you become anything you put your mind to. That's why they got a book out here, Think and Grow Rich. Because all you have to do is just think about it, make action plans, strategy, put it on paper, and then it will make sense. But like I said, people spend time on things that doesn't even serve them purpose.
Now, something I really wanted to ask you is, you talked about how, because your parents were pastors and having that religious made you have like a level of anger towards God, which
Mm,
is a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, because I can
yes.
talk about destructing yourself from the church and my journey through that as well. But you've been through so much turmoil, and a lot of times that's when people turn to God, right? Like, I'm going through all
Yes.
of this, like, so I'm going to turn to my faith, I'm going to turn to God. How did you get from just the awful things that you went through to the path of where you are more enlightened and accepting and all of those things without God? Like, what was your bridge?
I thank God for that question you just asked. It sounds so good. And so it's like melodies to my ear. It's so crazy. When I say hate God, it was one of those type of things where before we got spankings, my dad would read us a scripture in the Bible, spare the rod, spare the child. So he always try to redirect it back to God. This is why you're getting punished, because God said. So us as kids, we like, oh, this is what God's saying? And you guys in here doing God's work? Like we in there, we in the church being ushers and praise worship dancers. We doing all these things for God, but God's still not happy with us. We still being disciplined by God. So it's one of the type of things where you have to realize you can't attach God to people. God thoughts is higher than our thoughts. So just realizing, that part right there, as far as relationship is not about the religion, it's about the relationship. I feel like that's where we kind of get things misconstrued. And also just realizing in the Bible, we were cursed with enmity. That's a power struggle. So that power struggle is always going to be in your face. But God wants you to look outside that power struggle and see him who he is. Just because our descendants, our ancestors put us through this act of sin, don't mean that you have to live through sin. So like I tell people, what is the secret? The secret is sin. Whenever you're living in a secret, in the dark, skeletons in the closet, that's the sin. But the best kept secret is your salvation. How do I get salvation? How do I keep salvation? And how do I maintain and carry out in this lifetime? Because this life is a battle. Every day you're waking up to another battle, whether it's a thought in your mind battle or whether it's a text message on your phone from your boss battle. It's a battle. But it's like you got to enter this battle and win this battle, because it's going to be it's a struggle. It's a stronghold sometimes too, spiritual warfare.
Absolutely. Was
So
there like a particular incident or something you read, something you heard? Was there something that helped you find that path back to God? Like, that helped you transition from being so angry about it to realizing, what you just shared with us now, that it's God is different from the person.
person, yes. So it was actually my first heartbreak that I realized that God was a real person outside the religion. I'm telling you, my high school sweetheart broke my heart. When I got pregnant by him, he told me get rid of the baby. His parents wasn't gonna put him through college. He broke it with me until I got rid of the baby. And I was at the last week of getting rid of that baby. So I was going through so much mental distress. I was in high school, my sophomore year of high school, Mount Pleasant High School, throwing up in classes because I couldn't eat. Like I was just so sick, vomiting. And I didn't even know what to do. Forsaken child with no family, no connections. And I forgot to mention my mom stole us back. My freshman year of high school, we left my dad's house like a thief in the night. We snuck out the window, me and my biological sister. We ran away. My dad put out a state emergency
Oh
for us
my
on the
goodness.
highways to look for us. And we was here. My mom took us to the AI Children's Hospital to get us checked out, to get us examined. I had tapeworms in my stool. I had so many biological structures going on in my body. My asthma was so bad. My blood sister Rayanna, she had eczema going all the way up and down her neck because the care for the children was not there. But they always got the government changed though, because they had children. Let's not talk about that. But my first heartbreak put me into connection with Jesus. I cried and I turned on that Marvin Sapp. You hear me? I put on Marvin Sapp, and I just was inside of a park on a playground on the swing, crying my eyes out to Jesus. Like, God, I don't want to be here no more. I'm ready to kill myself. Like, this is it. And you know what God did? He showed me who he was. It was like it was a scripture, Psalms 93. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leaded me beside the still waters. He restored my soul. He leaded me through the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley and shadow of death, I will fear no evil. I was walking through the valley and the shadow of death, But God reminded me, why you should fear no evil, because he's your comforter. He's the rod and the staff that's gonna comfort you. So I actually feel the omnipresent on me. Like I felt warm on a cold night on a swing. I was on a swing and it was so warm. Like God was my comforter. Like he brought a comforter to
Mm-hmm.
like cheer me up. It's gonna be okay. This is life. This man, he love you, but he don't know who you are. I know who you are. I called you by name. Put your chin up. He said, continue to cry because I collect tears. So my father was there throughout the whole time. And that's another thing I could tell you how I knew it was about the relationship and not about the religion. My sixth grade year in school for talent show, I performed in front of the whole entire school, Smokey Norfolk, I Need You Now. And just to see the presence of God take over the whole building at such a young age, even though I was living in my self-inflicted nonsense, stealing and lying, I still knew when the time to praise God, like to show no shame in him. So I was out of the 13 siblings, I was the praying child, and I was the child that always, God this, God that. I love Jesus, even though I was doing a lot of sinning. I still knew that he had some type of connection with me. But what really put that into me when I felt that warmth of that blanket on that swing, I was crying my eyes out because my man cheated on me. You know, he's into the porn. He's not loving my body, and I was just all over the place about myself because my dad never reassured me who I was and told me that I was a beautiful girl after me being molested as a child. So I was all over the place with my first lover. And I tell people, when you become molested, you become one of four things. You become the predator itself, asexual, where you don't care for sex, you have to be in love to have sex. You become asexual, a sex addict, where you need it around the corner, or you become, they call it the LGBT community. You become one of those because somebody touched you in a way that it took away your innocence, and now you're running from it, or you hiding from it, or now you demanding it. And I was the one that I had to love you to lay down with you. All my people that I dealt with in my lifetime, they knew that. Like it wasn't the first night you getting it. And the dude that got it on the first night is because the same thing that happened to me in my childhood, it was like the devil was following me in a different body. That's another thing I didn't even realize how bad spiritual warfare was. How it would be a different body, but the same presence that visits you when he first took your innocence, but it's in a different body. But like I tell people, you have to understand that God give you spirit of discernment for a reason, to be able to recognize people personality and people character. People got great personality, I mean they can tell you great jokes, but in that joke could be a lie and you never know it because you're too busy laughing out loud, not
Yeah.
knowing that, they have this thing where they play mind games with you. They call it what do they call it? It's a sociology word. They call it gaslighting.
Gaslighting. Yeah.
Like people gaslight you, narcissists. They'll manipulate to make
Yeah.
you feel so comfort. Like they looking out for your best interest. Whole time it's the master disguise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just having that spiritual awareness, and knowing that God's presence, the omnipresent, is not just inside of a Bible. It's inside the trees. It's inside the clothes that I put on every day. It's inside the air that I breathe. So it's just recognizing that the presence is bigger than the power of that Bible. That right there, that Bible is just power struggle. And that's
Yeah.
what people toss in your face. That God said this, God said that, because that's how I was manipulated as a child, not realizing God wasn't in that Bible. His word is, his truth is. But his truth also is inside the trees and the birds that get fed year round without mankind being there to feed them. God didn't do his ministries always in church. He was in the prostitute, where he found Mary Magdalene, the lady at the well that had all the husbands. Like God do his ministry everywhere. He wasn't just inside of a church. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that's how big God was outside of a church.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. I know that it's so hard talking about these things, and even mentioning that you went from abuse to being in a relationship where you were treated that way. The cycle of abuse is a very real thing. There's a reason why people who
Yes.
grow up around abuse end up in relationships around abuse. People who were abused as children in some way, whether it's physically or sexually, end up in relationships like that because unknowingly your brain tells you that's love, right? Like you don't even mean to. And even if you tell yourself you'll never get in that, you're used to that pattern of it. And it really takes taking the time to unpack that, taking the time to identify it and really scope that out so that you can look for the signs so that you don't keep repeating those cycles. And it sounds like you've done that work, which I can only commend you for, because it's a lot. It's hard work. It's hard work looking in
It
the mirror and
is.
facing your demons. There's a reason why so much is swept under the rug, because it's easier to ignore it than to talk about things, and
Yes.
it's easier to pretend like you're not having problems than that you are. So I commend you for addressing it, and then also, using your voice to speak out to help others who may not be able to. Um, and so then, just to get to the tail end of this, I mentioned that you are doing wonderful things in the
Yes.
community and for yourself despite all of that. So can you tell us a little bit about like that journey, like how you used what you went through to find where you are now in the holistic area and doing all of the great things that you do?
Yes. So I just really just sat back and realized, what is it that make me happy? It was always understanding who I was, what made me happy. Like every time I found out something new about me, it would spark something inside of me, like to keep going, to don't stop, to stay encouraged. It was times I was scratching people back, and it was time for my back to be itched. I had to put my back against the wall and scratch it because people wasn't there. So realizing you have to be your own best friend. A true friend indeed comes through you, not through men. So with that being said, I grew up with 13 siblings. I was the type of person when I got older, I wanted just to be alone. I don't want no friends. I don't want no homegirls. I don't want a boyfriend. Just leave me alone. And it's put me in a position where it allowed me to develop myself. And when I say develop myself outside of my thoughts, I got out of my thoughts. I got out of my head and put it on paper. That was the first start of it, meditation and journaling. When I get up in the morning, getting anything that's on my head for the day, just getting it, writing on paper. I don't even know the chronological order. I'm just getting it out. Because the thing is, it's called bottling up your emotions to the point where you don't want to explode on the wrong person that didn't even do nothing to you. So just be able to get through where I'm at today is journaling, praying, meditating, and most importantly, understanding that life is truly what you make it. Not your past. My past is only there to make you stronger. Like I tell people, without pain, you don't get no gain. You want to see the fruit of your life. God said, how much fruit are you really bearing on your tree? He wants you to bear much more fruit. And some people are bearing little to no fruit. So in order for me to bear much more fruit, it's called humility. Understanding that I'm only a drop in the ocean, that the ocean is bigger than me. The world is bigger than me. Yeah, I may be a pretty girl with a pretty face. This is surface level. What's inside this heart that I'm carrying? It's the heart posture that we can't see. The four enemies of the heart: anger, greed, jealousy, and hate. People carry every single day, you don't see it. That's why I ask God to heal my sick heart, because I know for a fact it's still problems and issues that I face, not through other people, but through myself. So it's one of them type of things where as success happens, I'm journaling, I'm documenting it. The prayers that I ask, I'm putting it down on paper. Because the thing is, God is who He say He is. His promises will be fulfilled, but you don't know that if you don't remind yourself of what you ask God. God already completed so many things you asked for Him, but you still ungrateful, thinking that you need the bigger thing. But God trying to bless you, but He don't even know if He could trust you with the little things. So it's just understanding how to get to the next part of my life. Thank you so much, Isabella Baker, for tuning in. Yes. Just to understand, to get to the next part of my life, I had to understand, like, Rayanna, sit down, write your life down. What is it that you see for yourself in 2 years, 3 months, 6 months? And truly, y'all, it's one day at a time. Sometimes it takes people 1 second and one moment at a time because of the different things and withdrawals that people deal with that they're getting off of. I am an overcomer. You know, God told me, He said, you will live, you shall not die. If you believe that in your heart, the mustard seed faith that He gives you to have, you know, this world is truly yours. As it is in earth, it shall be in heaven. And like I said, my heaven is my peace of mind. Going into the enemy camp and taking back what was stolen from me, my peace, my joy, my sound mind, my sense of belonging. Because when you're a forsaken child, you feel like you don't belong on this earth. You want to kill yourself. I tried to kill myself 3 times as a child. I remember telling my dad vividly to his face, I wish I was adopted by Caucasian family because I didn't feel the love. And when I go to school, I see the Caucasian family that I be around, their parents embrace them and love them, even though they make poor decisions. You heard me. They still make poor decisions, but their family still found a way to love them through them poor decisions. My family was the exact opposite. It was none but hate. It was none but showing that God is the only way, but God is the hurtful way. Nah,
Mm-hmm.
God don't bring none but hurt. He bring joy, love, peace, all the fruits of the spirit. And you don't recognize that until you have the moment by yourself long enough to realize, okay, I'm gonna leave this earth alone. I was born on this earth alone, and I'm gonna die alone. So it's understanding that you're not gonna check out with your mom, best friend, cat, or dog. When you die, it's by yourself. And you were born from dirt, and you're going back to dirt. So you can't neglect the fact that all this glitz and glamour is all gonna pass away. So
Yep.
that's why it takes platforms like this, What's on Your Mind, to be transparent, to be bold, and most importantly, to make sure that you know that the victory is in your voice in this lifetime. If you want to be victorious, use your voice. That's something that man can't take away from you. God gives you favor through your voice. So that's why I practice, making sure I'm just staying updated with my education. The more you learn, the more you earn. Just because I graduated from high school and college and cosmetology don't mean my learning stops here. My learning is still in the books that I read. My learning is still through the children that I'm watching. My learning is through so many different obstacles in life. Even through nature, teach you how to learn, how to grow a garden, how to be patient with yourself, understanding the harvest of your lifetime, when it's time to plant your seeds and when it's time to get the fruits of your seeds. It's patience with this lifetime. And I
Mhm.
tell people, if you extract the instant gratification, you'll understand that God already had everything set up for you
Yeah.
without that instant gratification being, the sugar and spice and everything nice, as they say.
Right.
Yes, but it's interesting.
It
Keep
is.
going.
Keep going. I mean,
Resilience.
you're a walking testimony, and I can't thank you enough for your time, and like I said, for being
Yes.
transparent. Like, it's so hard to talk about these things, but we need people to, right? Because if nobody lends a voice to these things, it stays in the dark. And sometimes you need to hear other people have gone through what you've gone through to make you realize either that it's okay or that it's not okay. Sometimes people, because something you talked about earlier is like, how people don't always see like the larger picture. And it's true. I find, unfortunately, a lot of people don't do critical thinking. But part of that is that you grow up in an environment and you think that that is the world, and it's not the world. Like, there's so much more out there. But it also means that it's very easy for people to manipulate you, as you said, to think that wrong things are right. Like, everyone's like that, everyone does that. And then
Yes.
you need other people to speak out and say, like, no, that's not okay, everyone doesn't do that. And then you also, on the other side of it, need people who have been through the terrible things and been through the heartaches and have come out and been okay, for you to see them as a light, to be like, okay, I can get through this. Like, this is awful now, but I can get through this. And so thank you for being the voice on both sides of that, where people may need it.
Yes, I'm telling you, like, we're in a university. We're here to learn. We're not here to be judged, to be condemned. We're not here to play blame game. I'm not here to blame my mom and my dad. It's about forgiveness. It's about transparency. It's about reconciliation. It's about healing. It's about owning your truth. Owning what happened to you, because something happened. Because that's why you are the way you are. And I'm not about to live in denial and be walking around with so many hats. Every time I go around a new person, I gotta keep up with another lie. I'm not
Mhm.
doing all that.
No.
At the end of the day, I'm here to tell the truth and shame the devil. And God also said the truth shall set you free. So if you want to be free, tell your truth. And
Mhm.
and everything else is gonna follow. He gonna make sure that you're what he said, the weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper.
Yep. And oftentimes the thing that you're trying to hide the most is what will connect you to people. Like, I found the more that I was open about my mental health struggles and times I've been going through it, that's when people were like, oh, me too. I just didn't want to talk about it. And I was like, sometimes you just need that one person to be that voice. And once you
Voice
start,
for
like,
you.
now you can't get me to shut up. Like, I talk about it because I know that that's needed sometimes. But even for me, it's still sometimes a struggle, because there are times where
Yes.
you want to like be embarrassed because you want to be seen a certain way, or you don't want people to know your struggle. But it's really oftentimes the times that you want to shy away from things the most are the times you need to embrace things. And I think oftentimes people think people who are fearless have no fear. That's not true. We have a lot of fear. We just do it anyways. So if you have a fear, that doesn't mean you're not fearless. It's the doing it anyways, regardless of the fear, that makes you fearless. So thank you,
Preach.
Rihanna, for being so fearless and for coming on
Ooh.
and telling us all about your life. I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, I just want to leave some last words, y'all. Y'all can find me
Please.
Restoring Natural Beauty Studios, where I'm located, 1224 North King Street, Wilmington, Delaware. So that's all that my salon is about. It's literally one strand at a time, mind, body, and soul connection, and understanding the harmonious connections where we touch and agree. Despite what has happened to us, we're not a product of our environment. And you don't have to be. It's one type of things, owning your mind. First Corinthians talk about owning your mind. You don't want somebody to own this, the most powerful thing on your body. Get in control of your flesh, meaning let your flesh die and let it decrease so God can increase you in your spirit, man, so you can be strong and know that your weapon is in your readings, your testimony, your truth, and most importantly, your connection with good people.
Mhm.
Let me tell you, Miss African Butterfly, when you were speaking that time, when I met you at the event, you said words that was very powerful. And I said, I need to connect with her. She's
Oh,
my
thank you.
person. I said that to myself. I said, she's my person. So thank you again for giving this platform for, entrepreneurs, business owners, 9 to 5 workers, mothers, whoever need this platform that you're giving the opportunity to grace it. Thank you for the extended grace, because it's one type of things where people will overlook me because nobody knows me. I was a
Hmm.
stolen, forsaken child, missing for 10 years, and nobody knew where me, my brother, or sister was. To the point now, my grandfather just died this past year, and we went to the funeral. It was so awkward. We couldn't even grieve properly because nobody knew who we were at. Nobody knew who we were as his grandchildren. And some people were shocked to see us because they haven't seen us since kids, since we was 5. So like,
Yeah.
where you been? We thought you. No, I'm here. I'm
Yep.
alive. I'm a real person. Hello. So
Hmm.
it hurts. But I thank God for allowing this hurt to be a strength and a source and a supply to the light of this world. Because like I said, we're on this earth for a good time, not a long time. We know how many days we live, but we don't know how many days we have left to live. And the fact that I almost died 2 times last year, it just put so much energy into me saying, just get it out. Just let
Hmm.
God be God. Just stop trying to put your hands into the situation. Let God put his hands all in the situation. Because clearly this is out of your control. This is a battle that's bigger than your battle. And what they said, the battle's not mine, it's the Lord's. You can have it, Jesus. Take it.
Hmm.
Leave it at the
Yes.
altar.
Leave it at the altar. And thank you for leaving it all here. And, you're a prime example of why I love having these conversations, because everyone has a story. Even if you might look at somebody and think like, oh, they've got it all together, you have no clue what
No
people have been
clue.
through. Like, you can't judge anyone's winning season because you don't know what their losing season was like. You
Wow.
don't know what they had to get through to get to their winning season. So
Hmm.
it's just important to share these stories. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I see your comments. Very much appreciated. I'm glad you enjoyed the conversation. As she mentioned, you can reach out to her. You're also on Instagram as well,
Yes.
under your name, Rayanna Lynn.
Rayanna Lynn, yes,
Yes.
on Instagram, also YouTube. If you want to learn more about my story, I didn't go in details and everything because it's so long, it's so hurtful, but it comes with so much truth. I'm on YouTube, guys. Rayanna Lynn is my YouTube platform, and I utilize that just to share my truth, my testimony, and most importantly, just to get a community of people, of like-minded people, people that I like, know, and trust.
Hmm.
Because I
And
feel
we'll
like it's
include
one
her
type things
YouTube
legacy.
information.
We need
Mhm.
legacy.
Yes.
And we need accountability. We're missing a lot of accountability. Like, I did a lot of wrong out here. That's why I'm stepping up and letting people know that I might be looking like I'm perfect, but I'm far from perfect. I'm real though. I'm not perfect, but I'm a real human being that have a real voice, that with a real story and so much truth with it. I got truth out here, and I'm ready for it to be told at this point. I don't have nothing else to hide. My dad is actually in the hospital right now, going through his second open heart surgery, 5 years
Um,
apart, and he just went into the hospital last night, and his truth still is not heard as far as his hurt, his pain. So it's just like, who's going to step up and shake the devil off and let people know at the end of the day, this is what I did, this is how I'm an overcomer, and this is where I need help. I send some help.
right.
People need help out here, and it's like we're scared to ask for help as Black people. That's scary.
Yeah. And we need
We
to.
think that we
Yeah.
got it all, or we feel like people not going to help us. They're going to laugh and talk about us.
Mhm. And I'm sorry to hear about your father. Our prayers are with him and for
Yes,
a speedy,
please, prayers, y'all,
speedy
prayers. I need
recovery.
it.
So absolutely. And again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you to all of you who joined us this evening. This will be available on YouTube as well as Facebook for Feel Good Talk. I will be back next Sunday. We're back in rotation, so I'll be back next Sunday at 7:30 with Alfonso DeShelly. He is a historian in Philadelphia. It's the day before MLK, and we want to talk a little bit about Black history, but most importantly, how the legacy of MLK is often used to weaponize against us who want to stand up for what's right. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. I hope you will join us again next Sunday at 7:30. And thank you again, Rayanna.
Thank you guys for hearing my story, and most importantly, y'all make sure y'all use your voice. It's so much victory in it. And
Absolutely.
come check me out, Restoring Natural Beauty Studio, Wilmington, Delaware.
Thank you.